Welcome again. In our first story, government says it remains resolute in refocusing the efforts of the Anti-Textiles Piracy Task Force on policing the country's borders. This follows a demonstration on Friday by members of the Coalition of Textile Workers protesting the shift. The coalition wants the task force, which has been operational since 2010, working in the market areas to capture retailers of the pirated textiles instead of the restrictions to just the borders. They've consistently complained that the unchecked importation of textiles into the country was hurting the local textile industry because imported textiles were cheaper. We'll hear from a Deputy Trade Minister shortly and the coalition, but first, Joy News' Pat Gasu joined the coalition when they embarked on a demonstration earlier Friday and reports.
The protest began at the Obras Port and is expected to end at the Accra Heart of Oak, where a delegation from the demonstrators will present their petition to government. They are demanding that government saves the textile industry before implementing the One District, One Factory program.
The problem is about the influx of the textiles that is coming from outside. Because of that, our products are in the market, and because they have the same similar designs like the way we do our own, they don't buy. And the customers are always complaining that our products are not good. But because they are using cheap things outside to buy, they get the same quality. At the end of the day, it is assumed that it is GTP or ATL. Meanwhile, it is not so.
Ghanaian textiles, some are collapsing, especially now. Japan is going down now. Printers is going down. Japan is going down, and it's affecting GTP as well, right? High targets. They are copying our designs. And it's bad. They are copying our designs. They are copying our labels, and we want them to stop. Because of that, people are not controlling our products. So we are appealing to the government that it should stop them. When they get a code, they should ban them as well. High targets.
The imports of cheap and pirated prints onto the Ghanaian market prompted the formation of an anti-textile piracy task force to reduce the crime. The coalition wants the mandate of the task force revised from the current one, which requires them to be stationed at the borders.
The issue is when those members, 70-member board, is restricted to the borders, what can they do? They are not trained. They are just like you and I. So how would they be able to stop importation of those products? They are smuggling it, so they know what they do. And we need highly trained people to be manning the borders in order to prevent those things. It can be done by the security agencies who are trained to do that. And we, the workers who are on the anti-piracy task force, are only experts in identifying between the fake and the original. And the fake and the original are being sold on the market. So we need to be there to arrest the situation.
The influx of these pirated fabrics is forcing the local textile companies to produce less, which they say is adding to their production costs and thereby affecting the prices of the prints on the market. A situation they feel can be reversed if the menace is clamped down to enable them produce in larger quantities, which will translate into cheaper prints and also save the jobs of textile workers. Joy News, Patricia Gasu.
Let's go on the lines now. We're joined by Michael Anglerman. He's spokesperson for the Coalition of Textile Workers. Many thanks for your time. Government insists it is now looking to the borders to apprehend these smugglers because that is dealing with the root of the problem. So why do you disagree?
We don't disagree with government on that fact. We agree that it comes from the borders, but we also know for a fact that we have security personnel who man the borders. And so they should work. They should do their work by policing the borders and prevent those things from coming in. Sometimes it is so amazing to see that a made in Ghana product will be in a 40-footer container and being imported into the country through the borders. And why would the security agent allow that? We have a product being produced in Ghana. The factory is in Ghana, and it's coming from, say, Togo, in a 40-footer container, in large volumes, and you allow it into the country. Something to tell you that it is pirated. So they should do their way. or they are going to buy with their capital is pirated and it's not the original. But anyway, they go ahead to do it, meaning they know that they are committing a crime and they go ahead to do it. So why should the government say it's their capital? So he wants to protect their capital. Protecting their capital as in committing a crime? So if someone sells a weed or sells a cocaine, the person invests in it. So the government says it's because the person has invested in it, you should not arrest that person. A crime is a crime. They are buying fake products and they are committing crime. Whether they are invested in it or not, the truth has to be said. They have to be arrested. But
do these retailers at the markets, are they able to distinguish between what is fake and what is not?
My dear, they even know the fabrics more than some of the workers in the factory. They give the fabrics their name. They can tell you even just by a feel that this is original and this is fake. They know. At a point in 2010, the task force went around the whole country, spoke to the associations of these market women or the people who engage in this activity and educated them on. That is when we realized they even know the fabric more than some of the workers. So it is not an excuse to say you don't know or you cannot differentiate between the original and the fake. Anyway, there's no an excuse as to ignorance. You cannot use an ignorance of the law as an excuse.
What we've heard from government spokespersons is that the clampdown at the marketplaces is not yielding any results. There's nothing coming out of it, nothing positive coming out of it. So it is better to focus your attention and your strengths at the entry ports, which is the borders. So why isn't this the way to go?
Madam, let me just give you, I wouldn't call it a scientific analysis, but just a common sense analysis, that in 2010, 2011, when you go to the market, you couldn't see that these pirated products were confidently displayed on the market. All that you could get is that the market woman will talk to you. If you don't have money to buy GTP, if you don't have money to buy APL, we have some of the Chinese products or the pirated products which are at low cost, so you can buy. Then they go into their warehouses and bring them out. What it means was that they were hiding to sell. But now, 2018, starting from 2017, they are boldly displaying this pirated product. It tells you that at the time that the task force was going to the market, it was working. At least people find it difficult to commit those crimes. But now, they know that no task force is coming to the market, so confidently they are displaying it. This should tell you that the time that they were going to the market, there were some results.
All right, so that was Michael Anglerman. He's a spokesperson for the coalition of local textiles. We do understand that we have the Deputy Trades Minister, Carlos Ahenkorah, on the line now. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Ahenkorah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the argument advanced by the association. What do you make of it? You insist that you are going to focus your efforts at the borders.
Thank you very much, Madam, and let me say hi to your listeners. Indeed, if anybody tells you that we're asking them to just focus their efforts at the borders, then probably they just only telling half-truths. The terms of reference of the task force includes a mandate to bust into any suspicious warehouses and recover any uncustomed or pirated or counterfeited textiles that they find therein. All we are asking them to do is not to enter the market from the onset. We will give them a reason to go into the market. And if they had listened to us and even commented since May when we put this thing together, I'm sure by now they would have had a reason to go into the market. Because as I speak to you now, we are with GRA on enrolling all the textile manufacturers onto the tax stamp program. So that at least when we come to your store and you have cloth without tax stamp, we have questions to ask you. But I don't know why what the motivation is for them to just want to go to the market. You can go around and speak to some of the market women, and they will tell you what happens when these tax force people enter their stores. They collect even their kente that they sell in the store. Some of them even lose their money, their sales for the day, and so on and so forth. We don't know who does that. So we want to do it and do it well. Eventually you will go, but not from the onset. That's all we're asking for.
But isn't it important to also focus your attention on the markets as well? Because if they are openly, displaying and selling, pirated goods, that's not the way to go, is it?
Man, why would you want to solve the problem from the top? The smugglers come from the eastern border. Everybody knows that. So we said that let us try stopping them from that angle. If they manage to slip through, they know the warehouses where these textiles are stored. The textile workers who are supposed to be on the task force, they know. In fact, yesterday I met them, and they really told me that they have identified new ways that they are using to do the distribution, and they know where they are doing them. I said, then join the task force and tell us so that we'll be able to go and bust them. You're not doing that. You just want to go into the market. What's the motivation? We agree. You will go to the market, but eventually. Not from the onset, because immediately you started, this market women, like I said, have sworn that if you enter the market, they're going to fight you. So there will be bloodbath, and it will be on our hands as a government. We don't want that to happen. We want to find very good way to make everybody happy. After all, whether you like it or not, ma'am, we have to accept some imported cloth or some imported textiles into the country, because the amount of textiles that this country requires in every year is about 120 million yards. Total install capacity of all these manufacturing companies is 30 to 40 million yards. So certainly there's a deficit.
Honorable, how do you respond to those who are reading politics into this? They're saying that the market women form a majority of your support base, which is why you don't want to focus on the markets.
I want those people to bow down their heads in shame. They are Ghanaians. They are Ghanaians as the workers are also Ghanaians. We need to make sure that we have a balancing effect here. I don't think that the idea is to allow anybody to have their business killed. Don't forget that we are here to protect businesses. We are here to make people work. Tema, I have been in Tema all my life, and I know how this textile industry has nurtured families. How it has kept people, growing up. How it has kept people together. So seeing it like this, and we came to make it the way it is anyway. Seeing it like this, for me, saddens my heart. So I want to do everything to make sure that the textile industry does not collapse. But if it will be possible, it's not going to be possible at somebody's expense. It has to be possible as from a way that will be justifiably okay for everybody.
Right. So you're going to be focusing on the borders. So that's the strategy going forward immediately. But we understand that you're also introducing some new measures for the long term, where you would be working with the Ghana Revenue Authority. Tell us about that.
Exactly, yes. That's what we are doing. And we're also working on legislation to get the intellectual property law into place. Then probably, finally, my minister is considering to come up with the policy of single corridor importation for textiles, where we have textiles coming through only one route. So if we manage to seize importation of textiles from the eastern corridor, then you might even have a good reason why you have to go to the market and ensure that anything coming in there is just very okay to come in. So we are doing everything possible to get this work done and get the industry resuscitated.
All right. Thank you so much. And that's Deputy Trade Minister Carlos Ahenkorah there. You're watching Joy News Prime. And still to come, Pito Sela, whose son is alleged to have made several incisions on the back of his twin siblings for stealing 200 Ghana cedis, arrested along with his son.
This is under investigation now, smooth investigation. The command has issued a command to the district CID, regional CID, to investigate the case thoroughly so that by the end of the day, we get the proof of it.
Details when we return. You're welcome back. Now, one of the victims of recent robberies at Weija in the Ga South municipality believes the failure of landlords in the sprawling communities there to report their suspicious tenants is one of the main reasons for the high crime rate there. Proprietor of the Vicar school there, Peter Makion Anyite, was shot by robbers on motorbikes who made away with his cash of 5,000 cedis on Wednesday. He's victim of one of 4 robberies to have taken place in 3 days. My colleague Komladum, who has been following the developments there, returned to the area on Friday. He joins me in the studio. Hello, Komla.
Hi, Araba.
So what sent you back into the community?
So yesterday I was there to speak to one of 3 victims of these recent robbery attacks, and today I returned to speak to 2 more victims of the robberies in that particular the Weija area. So today I caught up with grandson of 61-year-old William Usman, who was shot on Monday night while he was going to buy prepaid credit to come and then, you know, turn on the power at their residence. And so within 20 minutes, and the sale point of a prepaid credit is just about 300 meters from where he lives. So we are told he didn't lock the gates, and so he just drove out of the premises to get the credit, only to return to meet 4 armed robbers in his house who snatched his car, shot him multiple times, and left him in a pool of blood. And so I've been speaking to his grandson, Richard Frimpong. He's been narrating to us exactly what happened.
I fetched water, cleaned the blood, and after that, I gave him a cloth to hold on to the blood. So I went out for a taxi, took him into the taxi, and went to go to Akaway. They told us they don't operate, they don't do bullet operation, so we should take my grandfather to Kolebu. And within 1 minute, a lady also came shouting that her father has been shot and he's bleeding. So they also told her the same thing, she should take the case to Kolebu. So my grandfather was sitting in the plastic chair. I wanted to help him stand up so that we can rush to the hospital. The khaki shorts he was wearing was soaked with blood, but he tried all he could, and then he went into the car midnight.
Okay.
They put a drip on him when I've gotten the folder, and then they asked me to be pressing the drip so that it will flow very faster. So I did that, and then the doctor said, oh, it's okay now, much has entered into the body. But he was bleeding, and even to the extent that they asked me to go for bedsheet so that they will put it on the bed. The bedsheet I was going for, they told me one is 12 cedis, I needed 2. And I told him, I have money on my phone, but physical money I don't have. So what he can do for me is to give it to me, and then in the morning I'll go for money and pay him. He said no, they don't do it so I should go and tell the doctor so that the doctor himself will come for it.
All this while your grandfather was still sitting there bleeding?
He was still bleeding. And the doctors were just looking at him. At that time he was sitting in a wheelchair and there's drip on him. Because I have not gotten the bed sheet, they cannot put him on the bed. Now when I went around 10:40, and then one of the doctors called me that I should hurry up and come wherever I am. They need me. When I went, I saw my grandfather lying down with the machine on him, and it was the machine that was breathing for him. I saw that his sideways started turning black. It was becoming dark. So over there, I started crying. The doctor asked me, what have I seen that made me cry? I didn't mind her, and I went out. So my uncle told me, oh, I should hold on, everything will be fine. And then I was just sitting there. 5 minutes later, they came calling my uncle and I. They took us to an office, and they told us my grandfather is dead. Honestly speaking, I didn't take it easy over there. I wept.
Very sad there. Yeah. So that's Richard Frimpong, his grandson of 61-year-old William Usman, who was shot and killed by 4 robbers on Monday night at Weija. So Kamla, we understand he was a top executive at Zen Petroleum Limited, who's just landed a new position at the company.
Yes, that's true. So from information we gathered from the home, we are told that he had just returned to the country, and that was one of the most recent appointment he had just landed just about 6 months ago, before this recent incident which took his life. I see. That's interesting. What else can you tell us? Well, so one other person I spoke to when I visited the community was the proprietor of Vicar Trust School. You recall he was one of the people who was also attacked on Wednesday. So he was shot by 2 armed robbers who were on a motorbike. They trailed him from the Atlantic Bank where he had gone to cash 5,000 cedis. So they trailed him, and so while he was just entering the premises of the school, he was shot by these 2 armed robbers, and then they demanded the 5,000 cedis So because they feared for their lives, they handed over the money to the robbers, and then they escaped with the money. But this man tells me that he saw these two robbers in the banking hall when he was there. And so he knew that these people had followed him from the bank. But he's been telling me that the increasing spate of robbery attacks in the area can't be blamed on the fact that some of the property owners in the area are harboring these criminals. And they say they fear reporting them to the police because they will be called out and be victimized. Let's hear him.
When we were about to enter my premise or my house, then the motor just crossed us and started shooting that we should bring the money in the envelope. So we gave the envelope to them, and one of the guns shot my hand, and the other one the driver shot his leg and arm, and we arrested too. In fact, we are taking us to the Akaway. From Akaway, they refer to Kolebo.
What about this afternoon incident? Do you suspect that you may have been trailed from the bank by these two individuals who accosted you on the motorbike?
Yes, I can say yes, because I met them in the bank. I saw them. They are too young with their, what do you call it, these hairs that... Dreadlocks. And thinking that they are going to take money. I know them. If I get to know them, I can identify them. And
how have teachers in your school been dealing with this news of this incident that happened on Wednesday afternoon? And to think that daylight afternoon, these people still go about carrying out attacks with guns?
Things have been happening to this vicinity here.
Also, we've heard that there are a lot of foreigners who live around here, who many of the residents suspects may be involved in carrying out some of these crimes.
Yes, you know, I'm a popular man here, so when this accident came, most of the parents, most of sympathizers, they have been here, and you look at it, anyone who come and visit them have something to say. That's my problem. They have testimonial to say that, look, this has happened to me. They say, hey, so all along you are keeping all this and you don't come out and voice it out that this is what you people are suffering under that. So I was thinking that, look, this is the nation problem, not individual problem. People are living with armed robbers in the house, but they can't come out and say it. The parents came and look, there's a tenant in my house now, he's armed robber, but I'm afraid to say it. Right now. Yes, so we are living with them, and they know the type of work they are doing. But you know, Ghanaians, you go to a police station and report it to them. Tomorrow, we say that your name will be that is this girl lady who has informed me. Then you to be on trouble. So this is what matter we are doing. So we want more police to come. Then sometimes when we see those running the motors, they are right to this time they have to arrest all the motors and then search them.
So, Komla, has the police been speaking about this spate of armed robbery attacks in those areas?
Yes, so yesterday and today I visited the Weija Police Headquarters just to get information and speak to the commander or the crime officer or any official there to speak to us. They confirmed to me off record that they have heard the incidents. They're actually investigating. In fact, they tell me that two suspected robbers were picked up yesterday on motorbikes, and we are learning that they may be connected to the Wednesday daylight shooting at the Vicar School. That's what police have been telling me.
Okay, thank you so much, and that's my colleague Komla Adum with those updates from Weija. Let's get on the line now because I understand we have the Accra Region Police PRO DSP Ifya Tenge who has joined us on the line now. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Now, I mean, I'm sure you've heard these horrific stories, very, very sad stories. What is the police doing to curb the spate of attacks in that particular area?
Yes, thank you, Araba, and thank you for giving me this opportunity once again. Yes, I believe yesterday I spoke to safety and the recent state of robbery within Weija and its environment. And when we started recording the incidents of robbery, what usually we have to do as a law enforcement agency is to first of all to review our crime combat strategy, which of course we are doing. And also we have to be able to analyze what records we have, the trend of the crime, how it is occurring, the modus that is being used to be able to perpetrate these crimes, and see the kind of people behind them. You know, Wija has been peaceful for some time because we were able to implement certain robbery combating strategies that have worked over some time now, until just this week that we are having the kinds of reports we are hearing, which is very sad and very unfortunate. But in hearing so or in doing so, what we have to do is a reviewing of our strategy. Now we have increased or intensified the patrolmen within that stretch or that jurisdiction. Then apart from that too, one thing or one key thing we need to do is also to be able to intensify our intelligence gathering skills. And I'm very sure that we are also closing up on them. Usually when we begin to have a number of robberies, there are every indication, looking at what we are hearing, there are every indication that a group of individuals or unidentified men who are behind that, they plan, they continue, they rob from one area to another, and they move from one location to another.
DSP, let me just interrupt you here. If you say that you've intensified police patrols, what exactly do you mean? Are we seeing more policemen on the ground during the daytime, during the nighttime? Exactly what do you mean?
Yes, averagely, the region reviews its crime combat strategies over a period. And after some time, we evaluate them to see those that are effective, those that we need to increase, those that we need to reduce, where we need to add more, and the rest. And these are done during our evaluation or assessment period.
The reason why I'm asking this, I beg your pardon, the reason I'm asking this is that we've been to the ground a day after these reports were made. Residents say they've reported to the police, and yet they see no presence of the police in the area, which is why they are, alarmed and concerned.
No. Yes, if we are talking about intensification of patrol, the number of patrolmen that were usually deployed in the area, we wouldn't have policemen to every house or to every corner because our strength will not even allow us. But in doing so, if we used to have, let's say, 4 patrol teams at a night, we are compelled by the situation to increase it. You understand? So we may not be able to see the police everywhere, but that does not mean that we are not on the ground. I am yet to even come to terms with the police presence, because as far as I'm concerned, and per the briefing I had from the command, even the regional command have even added more patrolmen to those that are already within the division and who are doing their best to provide them with the security.
Very well.
So if the public says that they are not seeing them, then we have to still do more because we are doing them. Yesterday, like this, we have not even recorded anything, or we didn't record anything. 2 days ago or so, some people were arrested with weapons.
All right.
So this tells you that, yes, we are doing something.
Very well.
It doesn't mean that we are just seated without doing anything, because we are equally worried.
I do understand you. You are doing more, and I'm sure that you will be doing a lot more in the days to come. We will be keenly observing that. Thank you so much. That's DSP Efia Tinge. She speaks for the Accra Region Police. You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsin. Still ahead, we have business and more news. Don't go away.
Good evening to you. Time now for business. The Bank of Ghana is advising commercial banks to suspend the payment of profits to shareholders. This, according to officials, will help position them appropriately to meet the deadline for the minimum capital requirement. Some local banks have already called on the president to intervene for an extension of the deadline, as many of them are struggling to meet it. Regional Manager of the Bank of Ghana, Michael Nyamesem, says suspending profits payment is critical. He delivered a speech on behalf of Head of Banking Supervision, Mr. Osei Jesse, at the opening of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology branch of the Standard Chartered Bank. Prince Appiah has more.
The Bank of Ghana has indicated that December 31st, 2018 is the deadline for banks to meet the minimum capital requirement. Officials of the Bank of Ghana are therefore advising banks to suspend the payment of profits to its shareholders. This, according to them, could enable banks struggling to meet the deadline position itself to meet it. Michael Anyamesem is Ashanti Regional Manager for Bank of Ghana.
The 31st December 2018 deadline remains programmed, even though we have some of our institutions requesting for a review of the deadline dates. No change has yet been communicated, and we are currently sticking to the original 31st December 2018. It is our expectation that banks will suspend profit distribution. Bank will suspend profit distribution this year to enhance their ability to comply with the new capital deadline.
He spoke on behalf of the Head of Banking Supervision of the Bank of Ghana during the opening of the ultra-modern smart branch of Standard Chartered Bank at KNUST.
And of the Holy Spirit.
CEO of the bank, Mansa Neti, says the bank has instituted guidelines on minimum capital requirements and corporate governance to protect client deposits.
Recently, Standard Chartered Bank introduced new guidelines on corporate governance and minimum capital requirements. And as a bank, we are committed to comply with these standards. The purpose is to ensure you, our clients, that your funds are safe and your wealth is safe with us.
The Smart Branch offers self-service digital platforms offering convenience to increasingly tech-savvy clients. It is part of the bank's ongoing investment in digital infrastructure. CEO of Standard Chartered Bank Ghana Limited, Mansa Neti, says the bank is committed to harnessing technology to deliver convenient service to clients.
The opening of this new branch affirms our commitment to financial deepening in Ghana, and our brand promise is being here for good. Being the first commercial bank in Ghana, we have been at the forefront of financial market and economic development in Ghana. We have become part of the fabric of the nation and are committed to remain for another 120 years.
Prince Appiah reporting.
The Dean of Business School at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Edward Mafu Yadom, is urging financial institutions to adhere strictly to regulations of the Bank of Ghana. According to him, the regulator's relentlessness to crack the whip when necessary is only meant to boost confidence in the financial space. He spoke with Joy Business at the 2018 National Credit Management Conference and Award Ceremony here in Accra. Bismarck Awusa was there.
Professor Edward Mafu Yadom was speaking in the wake of stringent regulations in the financial sector, especially the banking circles. He lauded the central bank for its boldness to intervene in the insolvency of some banks in the country. In this regard, he has encouraged players in financial institutions to up their game in order to remain relevant on the market.
We may say that they are becoming more firm and more rigid, but that is how the rules of the game will be, because we need to also protect the public in terms of what they are giving to these institutions. So far, all the regulators, whether it's the Insurance Commission, whether it's the Security and Exchange, whether it's the Bank of Ghana, whether it's the Pension Regulatory, what we expect is that the entities under these regulatory authorities will also respond. And if there are some regulatory issues that are harsh, I mean, as they do their reviews and do their dialogue, we hope that some changes work. But for now, to me, they are doing well, because we need some kind of confidence for the public That's individuals, institutions, to continue to do business with these financial services organizations.
He spoke to Joy Business on the sidelines of a conference and induction ceremony organized by the Chartered Institute of Credit Management Ghana, which saw some successful fellows and associates of the institution honored for their hard work. On his part, guest speaker at the function and chief executive of Sudan Investment Limited, Dr. Aziel Obing Okun, has re-emphasized the need to harness good corporate governance in credit management.
We have seen a lot of issues within the financial services sector, and some of them, have to do with the related party transactions. You have people giving loans to themselves, their family members, their cronies and friends, without, proper credit management practices, and this is a problem. We also have what we call lack of separation of powers. You have owner who is the chairman and the CEO and also running the whole show. There shouldn't be a credit system which gives unfettered access to just one person from initiation to completion. There has to be, separation of powers. And it's also important for us to ensure that we are inculcating ethical and professional standards or behaviors.
The ceremony was under the theme, the impact of corporate governance on effective credit risk management in the finance sector. Bismarck Awuse's report for Joy Business.
Banking and financial analyst Dr. Richmond Etuahene is blaming the collapse of some local banks on the appointment of non-experienced board members and directors. According to him, Ghana's banking environment can be improved if managers adopt a self-registration system and corporate governance structure. Dr. Etuahene made the assertion in a contribution at the Maiden Accra Speak series on the topic, Governance of the Banking Sector in Ghana. Is the central bank failing?
You commended Bank of Ghana. Although it's too late, but never too late. Having been some financial sector in 1988, we are glorifying and talking about corporate governance today. It is not something we should clap for anybody. We should not. Once you regulate, you talk about corporate governance. But as you've just said, we will commend them. But we won't commend them to just have it on sheet or papers. Let them enforce it. Let people face the bullets so that the confidence in the industry. Currently, my brother, you are not hit by a deposit run. You are not hit. I'm telling you, the other people are hit. Well, people are now literally taking their monies away because they don't know which of the 9 that will collapse tomorrow. They don't know. And the microfinance is more than that, the amount you're talking about. So we need to ensure stability, confidence. But we need to look at corporate governance. And I think you said something about, what did you say?
Deposit.
Deposit insurance. This country, Nawa. My brother, I always compare my big brother, Nigeria. NDIC has been there almost 15, 20 years. When they were deregulating, they thought there was the need for deposit insurance. We have had the law passed. But when you go into details of it, those who have studied it, my brother, is good as a paperwork, but the application will be very tough. Look, if I have a deposit 100,000 and I lose, you pay me 6,250. What has that got to do with me? If you're in UK, immediately the financial crisis came, those who have 35,000 have to be upgraded to 50,000 pounds. Now they have listed it to 100,000 pounds. You start yours with 6,250 cedis. So for every 10,000, I will lose 380. I mean, we have to be realistic. Now we are waiting for the Germans to give us money to set it up, isn't it?
The Tourism Ministry is embarking on a project to engage students at the various universities in Ghana with innovative ideas on how to market Ghana's tourist sites to the rest of the world. Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority stated this at this year's Destination Legon exhibition, an annual tourism event organized by the University of Ghana Business Level 400 students, tourism marketing students.
This year's fair is coinciding with the school's entrepreneurship fair, which affords students the entrepreneurship opportunity to showcase their business and entrepreneurial competences. Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Akwesi Ajiman, made this known at the ongoing business forum and exhibition at the University of Ghana Business School as part of the school's annual Business Management Week.
From bookings to marketing to levy collection to tourist attractions and how we can improve visitor experiences at these sites. So that is what we've been doing with them. I mean, technology is ever evolving. 2 years ago when this project started, probably some of the things that have come in now were not available. And so we look to see how we can go along with the technological improvements that are coming up every day. It's not just social media. We're looking at apps. One of the things we've discussed with them is to do an app challenge to see the various tourist apps that the youngsters have been coming up with and which ones we can adopt as a national app. We have several that are currently floating around. Every now and then we leverage it, but we want to have one holistic app for the country.
Meanwhile, organizer of the event and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Kobe Mensah, is confident the forum has the potential of adding a facelift on the country's tourism sector. He says the university is currently coming up with programs that best address challenges faced in the entire value chain of the tourism sector.
This year, their task is to look into embedding technology into enhancing the tourism office. And clearly you can see as it's going on. Students are looking at how artificial intelligence can actually help us to enhance our tourism experience. So the group that is presenting now is called Old Ghana Empire. They're looking at artificial intelligence where we can do machine learning for these robots, etc., to live.
And that's all we have for you by way of business. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. We are finished.
Now, a court in the Central Region has acquitted and discharged a juvenile who was accused of defiling a 4-year-old girl at Asin Adedentiam. Sources close to Joy News say prosecutors could not provide enough evidence to back claims the girl was defiled. The story of the alleged defilement generated national anger when Chief of the Town was reported to have said the gods had cleared the suspect of wrongdoing, an attribution the chief has since denied. Chairman of the Gender and Children Committee of Parliament is blaming poor investigations by the police for the outcome. My colleague Maxwell Baba recaps the story from October last year.
Sometime in October 2017, the case of the alleged defilement of the 4-year-old girl at Asin Adedientiam became a national issue. There was a groundswell of advocacy to get justice for the girl after the story was aired. An online petition calling on the Attorney General's Department to act gathered over 20,000 signatures. The hashtag Justice for Her and Justice for Kids became the top trends. The Speaker of Parliament also weighed in, urging the Gender Minister to ensure the matter is brought to its logical conclusion.
Young girls are defiled, women are raped, and when these matters are being investigated, you have all manner of graduate experts holding positions apparently of respect in the society, having intervened. We will want you to please ensure that this act is not a misdemeanor, but a felony, is followed up to this logical conclusion.
The Speaker subsequently tasked the Gender and Children Committee to ensure justice is served. The committee visited the region to speak to all the relevant parties connected to the case. Saboba MP Charles Bintin spoke about what transpired when the victim's family met the committee.
When we met the father and mother and the child, I think that we really gave them some encouragement. When we started to talk, the woman broke down. She was weeping. But as we went on, she gathered courage. And at the end of it all, she got up and thanked us. And said, and we gave them all the encouragement And we made them to understand that all is not lost yet.
He expressed fears about how the police were handling the case at some deep throat sources at the hospital where the girl was admitted, and the police say swabs of the victim and the suspect were not taken. It appears Mr. Bintim's fears have been justified. In that interview before the verdict by the court, he called on the police to do a better job with their investigations.
From our movements and interviews, there is certainly a case to be made, and it has been made. So we'll now see how the course will go ahead. I will report to our speaker appropriately, and so we think that even though we do not want to preempt things because the matter is in court, but we think that the judicial system, the police, will do the right thing. It is a measure. It is not only for that case. The measure that will be taken is to deter people from future such occurrence. Because if this matter is not properly handled, it means that that area will become a free range for the youth to do what they want. So I think that we'll have to plead with the police to do proper prosecution. We have to plead with the judicial system so that the system should work.
The chairman of the Gender and Children Committee in Parliament, Dr. Kojo Appiah-Kubi, is blaming poor investigations by the police for the outcome of the case. He says proper scientific tests were not done.
What we'll probably do is to engineer the collection of fresh evidence that could provide substantial evidence for further investigation. Because it appears that the investigation that gathered evidence wasn't properly done, and that might have been the reason. I believe that we could involve scientific means, we could collect scientific evidence by using DNA, swab. There are a whole lot of other things that we could do to probably unearth the cause, because in the hospital, according to the information that I have, there were some mistakes that were committed in the hospital. Not very good investigations were undertaken. Whilst the perpetrator was able to hire a lawyer to defend him, the other side didn't have a lawyer, and they were left to the mercy of only the police, the prosecutor.
Let's stay on this a while longer. Correspondent Richard Kojo-Nyarko joins us on the line now. Good evening to you, Richard. You were in court. Tell us what transpired in court.
Well, the Asinfosu Juvenile Court started today, and then they gave the judgment that the accused is not guilty of the charge of defilement. What happened was that the doctor was in court. He came with a medical report. You know, the medical report of the doctor suggested or indicated that there were no lacerations, the vulva was intact, and other things that also indicated that the child was not defiled. And so what happens normally in court is that apart from the medical report that comes, the doctor has to also appear and then prove to the court that, yes, indeed, the report that has been tendered in evidence is accurate. And so that was what happened. The 16-year-old accused person was also in court, and so he pleaded not guilty from the outset of the case. So the case had to travel the long haul, and by this, it means that a full trial had to be done. And so today, the trial ended, and the prosecution failed to adduce enough evidence to convict the 16-year-old boy. And so that is what really happened. And so the judge said that the 16-year-old boy has been acquitted and discharged. And in law, when they said that the person has been acquitted and discharged, it means that the person cannot be put before any court on the same charge. So that is really what has transpired.
Okay, many thanks. And that's our Central Regional Correspondent, Richard Kojo-Nyarko, bringing us up to date on what happened in court today. Let's also stay on the lines and speak to Bright Appiah. He's a child rights activist. Many thanks for your time. Good evening to you, Mr. Appiah.
Good evening.
Now, I recall when this case came up, I mean, it sparked, public outrage, and the expectation was that the perpetrator would be brought to book or punished. So what do you make of this latest development?
Yeah, for me, whichever way we look at it, the court the court, based on the evidence available to them, made a judgment. And the judgment we should not look at it as if the court wasn't trained in giving out such judgment. But what we should be concerned about is that issues concerning children need a certain level of a priority that we need to give to it. Because if you look at the precedent that was set in the Achimota student case, where he shot the lady at home, the High Court judge made it clear that there are issues of the social inquiry report is very crucial in the determination of such cases. Therefore, if we really want fair justice, that it means that right from the entry point in gathering evidence, a lot of things must go into obtaining a very comprehensive social inquiry report in order to convince the court to be able to make a fair judgment. So if you look at all the cases, however we have followed it up, you realize that there were a lot of lapses that were made. First, the medical report was obtained very late, so I'm not surprised that the medical officer made that statement. And secondly, we have always construed a medical report being that if it comes to deferment the cases, of course, the fundamental thing is that there has to be some penetration for it to come to that conclusion. But as the extent of the penetration, the medical report will not be able to establish that. So all these things go right. You look at the position of the police and the kind of evidence that they are giving to the court.
Yes, Mr. Appiah, be that as it may, is it possible, on what grounds can the case be reopened again?
That is where the issue is. Once you don't have a very good report, right from the entry point, like the social inquiry report. The social inquiry report is very, very important to the extent that court has made a precedent, a judgment on it. So it's not something that we can take for granted, especially when preparing a case involving a child. So my concern is that if you look at the statement that was given by the evidence, the witness that was made by the medical doctor, clearly, if the police went on the grounds that there's been a deferment case, then if the doctor is establishing that there was no penetration, then clearly there's a little we can do about it. But what we need to take into consideration is that the system is so weak, and we take a lot of things for granted. So we don't prepare ourselves very well to appear before the court. And what it has to do with the criminal case, what the court is interested in is that you have to move your case beyond always double down. And I thought that we are doing the service to our children in terms of how.
So very quickly, I mean, if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is that, the case has been closed on this. There's no way of reopening it and getting justice.
It will be very difficult because I don't know how the system is going to get a new evidence to be able to prosecute it.
Very well.
That's the sad part of it.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that is Bright Appiah. He's a child rights advocate doing some analysis on that very sad story there. Now, a 45-year-old Pito seller and her 25-year-old son are in the grips of the Wa police. The two were arrested after it emerged that the Pito seller's son made several incisions on the bodies of his twin siblings for allegedly stealing 200 Ghana cedis. John Doe is said to have lured his sisters to the Wa Sports Stadium, where he tortured them so they could confess to stealing the money. Rafiq Salam has more.
The two suspects, John Debu, 25, a tricycle driver, and the mother, Biena Debu, 45, a local brewed beer, Pito vendor, were arrested on Thursday on grounds that the two twins reported to the Wa police with multiple wounds on their bodies with blood oozing. The complaint was that their mother, Biena, instructed their eldest brother, John Debu, to whip the two girls until they confessed to the crime of stealing 200 Ghana cedis from their mother. Inspector Gideon Boaten is the Deputy Police Upper West Region's Public Relations Officer.
At this dawn, it's alleged that this woman alleged that the twin sisters, aged 16, have stolen her 200 Ghana cedis, and therefore she told the son to go and brutalize the children It's the time that they bring the facts out that they have stolen that sort of amount. So the two sisters are here. We issued medical forms to them. When they came to the police station, their bodies were cut with multiple wounds, of which blood was oozing. So the police issued medical forms for them to attend to hospital, and they bring the medical forms after the police, the hospital have been treated and then discharged.
Inspector Gideon Borton said Madame Deboe and her son John are currently in police custody and will be put before court after investigations.
After investigations, we charge the man for that sort of causing harm, unlawful harm to the two twins. The mother, they are even yet to arrest and caution the two of them. So they were brought in this morning. The guy took their twin sisters to the stadium area and brutalized them by using blade to cut their backs, according to the two twins, their twin sisters. So that is why police invited them to the police station. So the case is under investigation. So as you heard, that's how it is.
Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam.
And we stay in the Upper West because police there have arrested 13 illegal miners at Dwori in the Jerapa municipality. The suspects include 3 women as well as Burkinabe and Malian nationals. Deputy Upper West Regional Police Commander DCOP Edward Kwarting said the operation will continue until all illegal miners are flushed out from the area. Rafiq Salam again reports.
Deputy Upper West Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP Edward Oduo Kwarting, said a team of police personnel from the Upper West Regional Police Headquarters embarked on the operation based on intelligence to arrest illegal miners at Jerapa Dwori. 13 suspects, comprising 10 males and 3 females, were arrested during the operation.
Though there was no water body nearby, a land area of about 20 acres was found to be massively degraded by the illegal miners, who came from the Upper West region and other regions of Ghana, as well as some neighboring countries. More than 30 chamfang machines were found fixed at different locations in the area, engaged in crushing and grinding of rock materials believed to contain some precious minerals.
DCOP Edward Oduo Kwarting said more than 30 chamfang machines and other materials used by the illegal miners were also found and retrieved.
9 motorbikes, 2 bicycles, 7 chamfang machines were removed and brought to WA for investigations. Their temporary dwelling and resting sheds were set ablaze to deter the miners from continuing with their activities. The suspects have been detained to assist in investigation.
He said the exercise will be continued until all illegal miners are flushed out of the Upper West region.
Protecting the environment and our natural resources should be a concern to all of us. Land is a scarce commodity and should be judiciously used. Elsewhere, there's land reclamation from the sea. But unfortunately, instead of protecting what we have, we are rather misusing it to the detriment of our future generation. Ecologically, our environment is at risk, so please let us not engage in activities that will further hasten the degradation of the environment.
Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam.
Now, government has indicated roads in areas which come under heavy pressure due to heavy-duty vehicles will be constructed with concrete. Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, who disclosed this, said government remains committed to constructing durable roads across the country. According to him, the country is losing a lot, including human lives, as a result of poorly constructed roads which do not last long. He gave the assurance at a sword-cutting event in Tema to commence a 4.4 millimeter concrete road.
Dr. Bawumia first made the revelation during the 2016 electioneering campaign. The 5.4-kilometer road in the Tema industrial area will be constructed by 2 Ghanaian firms. It will be completed within 18 months. Dr. Bawumia explained concrete works are more durable and cost-effective compared with asphalt. He cited the Accra-Tema motorway as an example.
To this end, government has initiated the construction of the Tema Steelworks roads and the DVLA road. This is an inner city road, and in that sense, it's a pilot on concrete roads for our inner city. The choice of the steelworks and DVLA roads in Tema are based on the functional use of the roads by heavily loaded vehicular trucks. We do believe that the road, when constructed and properly maintained, should last over 40 years.
The Vice President also urged the Ministry of Roads and Highways to research into quality of local materials for the construction of concrete roads.
One of the good things about concrete roads is that the import content is very low. We have the material that we can use in the construction of concrete roads. The Ministry of Roads and Highways should undertake research into the use of local materials like pozzolana, cement, aggregates, and the sand in road construction, with the main aim of reducing the cost of concrete roads.
Roads Minister Kwesi Amoako Atta revealed all is set for the construction of the Pokwase interchange.
We are also undertaking a facet overlay of selected roads in Tema and Accra. Again, we are constructing the Pokwase interchange, and everything is in place. The contract has been signed, and the contractor is mobilizing to site.
The event was also graced by some traditional authorities, among other state functionaries. Kwame Yankes reports for Joy News.
In our headlines, textile workers staged protest over government's decision to refocus its anti-textile piracy operations. The government says it remains resolute. In business, the Ashanti Regional Manager of the Bank of Ghana advises commercial banks to suspend payment of profits to shareholders to help them meet deadline for minimum capital requirement.